It was a typical Tuesday afternoon, the kind of day where everything seems to be moving at its usual pace without any hint of the unexpected. On one side of town, a young boy about 12 years old was walking home from school. His shoes were worn, but he kept his head high, his stride confident. He had dreams, big ones, and nothing would stop him from chasing them, not even the long walk home. On the other side of the city, a luxury car rolled down a busy street. The man behind the wheel, a millionaire in his mid-40s, had just wrapped up a meeting. He was headed home eager to relax. His life seemed perfect from the outside: business deals, freedom, wealth. But on that day, even the wealthiest can't escape life's small inconveniences. Suddenly, the car jerked, and the unmistakable sound of a flat tire filled the air. The millionaire pulled over to the side of the road, annoyed but calm. He wasn't worried; he could call someone for help in seconds. Still, there was something about the situation that felt like an inconvenience he just didn't need. As he opened the door and stepped out, the young boy noticed the stranded car. He had seen it before, the type of car that makes heads turn, but today it wasn't a symbol of luxury. It was just another car stuck on the side of the road. The boy slowed his pace, his eyes flicking between the car and the man, trying to figure out what to do next. Without thinking, he walked over the steps, feeling familiar, as if he had done this 100 times before. Helping others was just a part of who he was. The boy didn't see a millionaire or someone out of his reach. He just saw a person who needed help. "Need a hand, sir?" he asked, his voice steady, but full of that youthful sincerity. The millionaire looked up, surprised to see the boy standing there offering help. In that moment, two worlds were about to collide in the most unexpected way. The boy, named Jamal, wasn't used to easy days. His life was full of challenges, but he took them all in stride. Every morning, before the sun was even fully up, he was already out helping his mother set up her small shop. She ran a local convenience store, and Jamal would help with stocking shelves, organizing the aisles, and doing whatever needed to be done. He was no stranger to hard work. School was a place where he could dream, but home was where he put in the hours. Most of his friends spent their free time playing sports or hanging out, but Jamal often stayed behind to help around the store or study. His mother always told him that a strong work ethic could take him places, though sometimes it didn't feel like it. Money was tight, and Jamal knew that the future wasn't guaranteed, but he didn't let that stop him from dreaming. He had ambitions that stretched far beyond the small corner of the world he knew. Across town, the millionaire, let's call him Mr. Williams, was facing a different kind of struggle. He wasn't worried about making ends meet. He had the financial freedom to buy whatever he wanted, to take trips, to live comfortably. But on that particular afternoon, he found himself stuck on the side of the road with a flat tire. It wasn't something he had expected. His car was top of the line, and his life was filled with convenient chauffeurs, assistants, and everything he needed at his fingertips. Yet here he was staring down at a tire that refused to cooperate. His first thought wasn't about how to solve the problem, but how annoying it was. He checked his phone, ready to call for roadside assistance, but there was no immediate rush. He wasn't worried about being late to his meeting or that a flat tire might derail his plans. It was just one of those minor inconveniences that came with the territory of owning a luxury vehicle. He sighed, hoping for a quick fix. Life was good, sure, but even the wealthiest face their own moments of frustration. As Jamal watched Mr. Williams from a distance, he couldn't help but notice the contrast. To him, this flat tire seemed almost trivial. Sure, it was inconvenient, but it wasn't the end of the world. In Jamal's world, things were always a bit more urgent. If something broke or went wrong, it could mean an entire day of lost work. His life was a constant balancing act, doing everything he could to keep things running smoothly. The millionaire had the luxury of time, the kind that Jamal could only dream of. But for Jamal, this was just another opportunity to help someone in need. And for Mr. Williams, this flat tire was just another bump in the road of his otherwise perfect life. Two people, two worlds, each facing their own struggle. Jamal's day was like any other. He had just finished helping his mother at the shop, and now, with the sun beginning to dip lower in the sky, He was walking home through the busy streets. His hands were in his pockets, and his mind was elsewhere, thinking about the homework waiting for him and the work at the store he'd need to catch up on later. But as he turned the corner, something caught his eye. A sleek black luxury car was pulled over by the side of the road, its hazard lights blinking in the afternoon light. It wasn't a car. Jamal was unfamiliar with it. It was the kind of car you'd see in the city's wealthier neighborhoods, a car that made heads turn. He had seen it before parked outside expensive restaurants or passing by on the highway. But today, it wasn't moving. The car was stopped, and the man who owned it was standing beside it looking perplexed as he bent down to inspect the flat tire. Jamal paused for a moment, his gaze fixed on the situation. He noticed the man's frustrated expression as he tried to figure out what to do. The millionaire, Mr. Williams, was well dressed, wearing a tailored suit and holding a phone in one hand. It was clear he could easily call for help, but there was something about the way he stood there looking slightly out of place in the middle of the street that made Jamal take a second look. Jamal didn't hesitate. There was no question in his mind. He wasn't the kind of person to just walk by and ignore someone in need, no matter who they were. He was used to helping people, whether it was holding the door open for someone at the store, helping his mother carry boxes, or stepping in when someone dropped their groceries. Helping felt natural to him, and this moment felt no different. He knew the flat tire wasn't something life-threatening, but it was an inconvenience, and maybe the man didn't have anyone around to assist him. As Jamal approached, the man glanced up surprised to see a young boy walking towards him. There was no hesitation in Jamal's voice when he spoke. "Need a hand, Sir?" Jamal asked, his tone calm but confident. Mr. Williams blinked in surprise, clearly taken aback by the boy's offer. He wasn't expecting anyone to stop, let alone a young kid. He had been ready to make a call for help to have someone else come fix the tire. But something in Jamal's face, in his steady gaze, made him reconsider. There was no urgency in Jamal's voice, no sign that he expected anything in return. It was simply an offer of kindness. "Well, that's kind of you, but I think I can handle it," Mr. Williams said, trying to keep the situation light. "I'm just waiting for someone to come help me." Jamal didn't back down. "I don't mind. I've helped with tires before. It's no trouble." His words were casual, almost as if he was offering to help someone pick up a dropped pencil instead of dealing with a flat tire. Mr. Williams smiled, a little taken aback by the boy's confidence. "Well, I appreciate the offer. It's just a tire, though. I'm sure it'll be fixed soon." But Jamal wasn't looking for thanks or praise. He simply wanted to lend a hand, and so, without waiting for permission, he crouched beside the car and took a closer look at the tire. It didn't take him long to see what needed to be done. He had helped change tires before at his mother's shop, and he knew his way around a wrench. With a few swift movements, Jamal started loosening the bolts, his hands steady as he worked. Mr. Williams stood back, initially unsure of how to react. He was used to people doing things for him, not the other way around. But there was something different about this kid. As Jamal worked, Mr. Williams found himself watching, intrigued by how effortlessly the boy went about the task. "So you know what you're doing, huh?" Mr. Williams asked, trying to start a conversation as Jamal continued working. "Yeah," Jamal replied without looking up. "I've done it a few times. My mom runs a little store, and sometimes I have to help out with stuff like this. Tires, cleaning, whatever needs to be done." Mr. Williams raised an eyebrow. "A store? You work there after school?" "Yeah, gotta help out when I can." Jamal continued working, not pausing for long. He wasn't bragging, it was just the way he lived. Helping his mom wasn't a chore, it was a responsibility he had taken on early, and he was proud of it. "You know, I admire that," Mr. Williams said, his voice a little softer now. "Not many kids your age would take the time to help someone like this." Jamal shrugged, wiping a bit of sweat from his brow. "I mean, you never know when someone might need a hand. If I can do something, I will. Doesn't hurt to be kind." Mr. Williams nodded, reflecting on the boy's words. He had built his success through years of hard work, but he often wondered if the meaning of true kindness had been lost somewhere along the way. He'd surrounded himself with wealth people who wanted something from him, and it felt refreshing to talk to someone who didn't ask for anything in return. "Good advice," Mr. Williams said. "You remind me of someone I used to know. They always believed in giving without expecting anything back." Jamal finished tightening the last bolt, then stood up, wiping his hands on his jeans. "There you go. Should be good now." Mr. Williams looked down at the tire, now properly fixed. He was impressed not just with the boy's ability to get the job done, but with the kindness that had motivated him. Jamal hadn't asked for anything in return. He had simply done it because he could. "Thank you, Mr. Williams," said, his voice sincere. "I really appreciate that." "No problem," Jamal replied with a smile. "Glad I could help." As Jamal stood back from the car, wiping his hands on his jeans, he felt a sense of pride. It wasn't every day he got to help someone with something like this, especially not a man who seemed to have everything. He hadn't expected anything in return. After all, helping was just something he did. But as he turned to walk away, the sound of Mr. Williams' voice stopped him. "Hey, Jamal," Mr. Williams called out. The boy turned, surprised that the man had remembered his name. "Yeah?" Jamal asked, his voice cautious but curious. "You know," Mr. Williams began, "I can't let you help me like this and not offer something in return. I don't think I've ever met a kid who's willing to give up their time to help a stranger without expecting anything in return." He paused for a moment, looking at Jamal with a mixture of admiration and thoughtfulness. "That kind of selflessness is rare." Jamal shrugged, trying to keep it casual. "It's nothing really, just a flat tire." But Mr. Williams wasn't done. He took a step closer, his voice now taking on a different tone. "No, it's more than that. People don't always see the value in kindness, but I think you understand that. You remind me of myself when I was your age." Jamal raised an eyebrow. "You? You were like me?" Mr. Williams chuckled, softly nodding. "Believe it or not, I wasn't always the businessman you see today. I didn't have much when I was a kid either. I had to work hard for everything I've built. It wasn't until I met someone who saw potential in me, someone who gave me a chance, that I started to see what was possible." Jamal was listening intently now, the idea of someone offering help like this beginning to sink in. "What happened?" "Well," Mr. Williams said, shifting his weight slightly, "I was working odd jobs back then, doing whatever I could to get by. One day, a man came into the shop I was working at. He was rich, successful, and kind of intimidating, honestly. But when I helped him out with something just like you helped me today, he saw something in me. He didn't give me money or handouts. He offered me advice. He said, 'You can be better than this if you're willing to work for it.' And that changed everything for me." Jamal's eyes widened a little. He wasn't used to hearing stories like this, especially not from someone like Mr. Williams, who seemed so confident and put together. "So, what did you do?" "I worked harder. I learned. I kept pushing forward. And eventually that man gave me an opportunity to shadow him at his company. I learned the ropes, and I started to build my own business. It didn't happen overnight, but that moment, the moment someone believed in me, that was the turning point." Jamal nodded, slowly taking in the weight of Mr. Williams' words. He wasn't sure what to say, but there was something about the way the millionaire spoke that made him feel like anything was possible. "So you're saying people like me can make it too?" Mr. Williams smiled, the kindness in his eyes evident. "Absolutely. But you need to keep working hard, stay focused, and find the right people who can help guide you. You have something special, Jamal, and I'd be happy to help you if you're willing to learn." Jamal's heart raced a little. This wasn't just some small talk. The millionaire was serious. He had seen something in him, something that no one had ever pointed out before. And what's more, Mr. Williams was offering to help him take the next steps. "You're offering me a chance?" Jamal asked, still a little in disbelief. Mr. Williams nodded. "I think you've got the drive to do something great. Why don't you come shadow me sometime? See what it's like to run a business, make deals, meet people. I'll introduce you to some of the people in my network, people who can help you get where you want to go. You never know what kind of doors might open." Jamal couldn't believe what he was hearing. A chance to shadow someone like Mr. Williams? to learn from someone who had built an empire from the ground up. It felt like a dream. I don't even know what to say, Jamal finally managed. Thank you. I don't know if I can repay you for something like that. Mr. Williams grinned. You don't have to repay me. Just take the opportunity and make the most of it. That's all I ask. Jamal was left standing there, a whirlwind of emotions rushing through him. A few minutes ago, he had just helped a stranger with a flat tire. Now that same stranger was offering him a chance to change the course of his life. All because of one simple act of kindness. As Jamal walked away, his mind was racing with possibilities. He had never imagined that helping someone could lead to something so big. But as he thought about it, he realized that sometimes it's the smallest moments that lead to the biggest opportunities. And this moment, this simple act of helping someone in need, was the start of something much greater than he could have ever anticipated. Over the next few weeks, Jamal couldn't stop thinking about the conversation he'd had with Mr. Williams. Every time he passed by the car where they'd met, he remembered how the millionaire had stopped to offer him a chance, not out of obligation, but because he saw something in him. It felt surreal, like a door had opened that Jamal never even knew was there. At school, his friends noticed a change in him. He wasn't just going through the motions anymore. Jamal had always been a hard worker, but now he carried himself with a different kind of confidence. When he spoke, his words felt stronger, more purposeful. Even in the face of challenges, Jamal started to believe that he could overcome them. He wasn't just helping out at the store for his mom anymore. He was building his own future. Jamal began waking up earlier, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He'd sit at his small desk at home, reviewing his schoolwork with newfound determination. But more than that, he started researching business entrepreneurship and how people built success from the ground up. The ideas Mr. Williams had shared with him about hard work, learning, and taking chances resonated deeply. Jamal realized that success wasn't just about money. It was about persistence, growth, and being willing to take risks. One afternoon, as he was leaving school, he spotted a business card in his jacket pocket, the one Mr. Williams had handed him the day they met. It had seemed like a casual gesture at the time, but now it felt like a lifeline. He had almost forgotten about it, but now it felt like the right time to take the next step. Jamal didn't hesitate. He pulled out his phone, found Mr. Williams' number, and dialed. Hello, Mr. Williams. It's Jamal, the kid who helped you with the flat tire. Jamal said, his voice steady, but filled with a bit of nervous excitement. Oh, hey Jamal. How's it going? Mr. Williams' voice was warm and welcoming. I've been thinking about what you said that day about learning and hard work and how to get where I want to go. I wanted to ask if I could maybe meet up and learn a little more from you about business and how you made it. There was a brief pause on the other end, and Jamal felt a momentary wave of doubt. But then Mr. Williams spoke, his voice as encouraging as ever. Absolutely. I'm glad to hear that you're ready to take action. How about we meet at my office this Saturday? I'll introduce you to a few people, give you a taste of what it's like to work in the business world. You can shadow me for a bit, see how things are done. Jamal's heart leaped. This was happening. The following Saturday, Jamal found himself walking into a sleek office building far more polished than anything he was used to. He felt out of place at first, but as soon as he stepped into the office, Mr. Williams was there to greet him, a big smile on his face. For the next few hours, Jamal shadowed him, sitting in on meetings, listening, as Mr. Williams and his colleagues discussed deals, goals, and business strategy. Jamal asked questions whenever he could, and with every answer, he felt a little more confident. Mr. Williams didn't treat him like a kid. He treated him like an equal, explaining concepts and offering advice that felt incredibly valuable. But it wasn't just the business knowledge that Jamal took away from that day. It was the belief that he could do it too. He realized that the people in those meetings weren't anything special. They weren't born into success or handed opportunities. They'd made their way there through determination and grit. Jamal started to see that his dreams were within reach as long as he kept pushing forward. Days turned into weeks, and Jamal didn't stop. He worked harder at school, took on small side projects to build his skills, and kept in touch with Mr. Williams, who continued to mentor him. Each interaction, each new lesson, was shaping Jamal into someone who believed in himself more than ever before. Slowly, he began to share his dreams with others, dreams that had once seemed too big for someone like him. He spoke about opening his own business one day, maybe even a chain of stores that would help people in his community. And the more he talked about it, the more real it became. It wasn't just a dream anymore. It was a goal, one that he was now determined to achieve. Jamal knew that his journey had just begun. But one thing was clear: he had a new perspective on success. It wasn't something that happened overnight. It wasn't just about money or status. It was about learning, helping others, and taking risks. And no matter how tough things got, Jamal now understood that if he kept working hard, the doors to his dreams would keep opening. It's incredible how a small, simple act of kindness can create a ripple effect, changing everything in its path. Jamal's life was forever altered by the simple decision to help a stranger with a flat tire. What started as a moment of generosity turned into a life-changing opportunity, showing us that sometimes the smallest gestures can have the biggest impact. You never know how a small act of kindness can change your life forever. What seems like a simple favor to one person can open doors, build connections, and change the course of someone's future. So remember, kindness isn't just a feel-good moment, it has the power to change lives. Next time you have the chance to help someone, don't hesitate. You might just be the spark that ignites someone's journey to success. If you enjoyed this video and believe in the power of kindness, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an inspiring story. This story is a work of fiction. While it highlights the power of kindness and the potential for small acts to create big changes, the characters and events described are not based on real people or true events. The message is intended to inspire and remind us of the positive impact kindness can have on our lives and others. Thanks for watching, and keep spreading positivity.